everyone, so I'm here today to do a review on the Venice Fling um, Bailey Sarian and Estate collaboration. And I got this in the Ipsy Glam Bag Plus. I did add it as an add-on. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it because I have been following Bailey Sarian for a little while now and think that she's awesome and the bomb. So she's someone that gives me inspiration because she and I share a common fascination with murders, mysteries, and makeup. And I'm proud that someone like that is in the makeup community that seems to have reinvented or made a platform that is just so unique. And it also brings and sheds light on some really serious cases out there that are either unsolved, mysteries, and just true crime drama that is very unique and something that I think a lot of true crime is overlooked. So I feel inspired to utilize this palette because of the recent events with COVID-19 and what happened with my mom. So to briefly recap, my mom received back surgery in April, and it was for her sciatic nerve. And she was an older woman in her, she was 73 at the time, and she couldn't go straight home because my father's house and my mom's house has 2 floors, 2 levels. And it was determined by the doctor that she needed some physical therapy to help strengthen her core so that she can recover in a way where she wouldn't potentially injure herself in a house. So she was sent to a rehab facility, and unbeknownst to us, it was a facility that had active COVID patients. And my mom was placed on a floor, and eventually that entire floor of patients ended up testing positive for COVID-19 at this rehab facility / skilled nursing home. So in a way, I find true crime to be something that inspires me, but also it shows me that activity that is questionable can occur in everyday life. It doesn't have to be just like a significant event that is highlighted in the news. Like, there is true crime and bad incidents occurring every day. So you have Ms. Bailey, who made a wonderful platform, and she always talks about making good choices at the end of her video, and she seems very humbled. And this palette is mega pigmented, and it really represents her image, her brand. So anyways, to get back to the situation with my mom. So after she was exposed to COVID-19, the nursing home identified that she was asymptomatic, and our family was trying to get her moved to the hospital, and they kept saying, no, she's asymptomatic, she can stay here, we have the adequate abilities to take care of her. And we were like, we don't believe that. So my father called the hospital to try to speak to her doctor, and the situation was, if you were exhibiting serious symptoms and were not asymptomatic, you were a candidate, because they didn't want to flood hospitals and take up beds for those that were in critical condition, because there is a limit to what the hospitals can handle. So we were then going to try to get her moved to a different nursing home facility altogether, because we were supposed to get daily check-ins. We were supposed to get updates on how well she was doing. And there were times where we didn't get any of that. They told us the treatment plan was that she would be getting checked and her vitals checked and her oxygen checked every 2 hours. And I couldn't get people on the phone. I couldn't get them to answer, which was very, very frustrating. So a week goes by and we're still being told she's asymptomatic. Every once in a while, we're able to get an update, but our hands are tied at this point. We were prevented from moving forward with anything. It was a very, very frustrating experience that we were having at this point, because I felt like, and I don't know if this was true, but I felt like our calls were being screened, because there were times where I would call and leave my phone on ring for over 20 minutes straight until finally someone picked up. And I spoke to the administrator and I let them know that they were not following through with their obligation. The director of nursing, the nurse manager, and a night nurse. And talking to them and getting the opportunity to see how my mom was doing was like pulling teeth. It was not easy by any means. So a week goes by, and each and every day when we finally get an update, and instead of getting the update twice per day, we're just getting general overviews, and I'm talking to my mom every once in a while when I can get her on the phone, because she had back surgery and her cell phone was broken. She could hardly speak English, so she could hardly use a phone. And she was in a room quarantining with 2 other COVID patients, and they were sharing a landline phone that was placed in the center of the room. So the few times my mom was strong enough to get up and answer the phone, she seemed off. And I kept telling the nursing staff, something's wrong. Are you sure she's asymptomatic? She doesn't seem right. And it's hard to convey this information over the phone and get the medical buy-in from the nursing home care and the nursing home staff. So they kept saying, oh, she's doing fabulous. We have a whole bunch of asymptomatic patients. We're doing so well. Our rehospitalization rate is so low. You don't need to worry. She is in good hands. But I could barely get them to let me talk to my mom. That's strange. How is that allowable? How is that okay? So finally, like I said, after a week goes by, towards the end of that week, we stopped getting any updates. We kept calling the nursing home. Nobody was giving us even our daily updates that we were pulling teeth to get in general. And then Tuesday comes rolling around and we get a surprise call from them saying that they had to call an ambulance because my mom's suddenly deteriorated out of the blue within hours. So she gets sent to Leominster ER. And I call there and I'm speaking to the nursing staff there, and they're like, Susanna, your mom's so dehydrated, her lips are bleeding. We strongly feel like she hasn't had water for a very, very long time. And I was just horrified. So they told me, we're putting her on fluids to try to get her hydrated, but her outcome is not looking good and her oxygen is bad. It was dropping below 80. So we went from being told her oxygen level was 98, 99, 97, 98, 99, 97 to suddenly below 80 and a sudden spiked fever. To hear the condition that your mom is in and how she suffered, it's like a stab in the heart. It literally feels like someone just stabbed you right in the heart to hear that this happened. And it wasn't like I could bust into the nursing home facility and see it for myself. I had to trust that the information being conveyed was accurate and that they were actually doing the checks. I had no other ability to verify this information. So we're told that later on that night, they were waiting for a bed and she was being transferred over to the CCU unit, which is the critical care unit. And I think that's where the COVID patients were going at the hospital, isolated away, so that they couldn't cause the illness to spread and infect other people. And to say that the hospital staff treated us and my mom differently was a whole different ball game. They were calling us. Every time I called, they took my phone call and answered my questions. They were willing to listen, and on top of that, they gave me updates, and they told me some horrendous information. One, my mom's kidneys were shutting down because she was so dehydrated. Two, she probably hadn't been eating in a long time. And three, once she was on the ventilator, she was not going to have a 20% chance of survival. Whew, that's a lot to take in. So later on that night, she was ventilated. And the family knew she was not in a good way. I don't want to sound accusatory, but she got screwed over. That's the best way that I can say it in layman's terms. My mom got screwed. So the nursing staff at the hospital did the best they can. They called us. We did FaceTime. My mom couldn't answer, but I knew she was listening because even though she was sedated and her eyes were shut, she was crying when we were talking to her. And I just knew she was in good hands at the hospital, even though I knew deep in my heart it wasn't going to end in a good way. So, suck it up, Susanna, because my mom wouldn't want me to be crying like a baby right now. She's been through a lot, so. So, anyways, every time we called, they kept giving the prognosis. She was getting worse and worse and worse. And they were doing the best they could. But there's a limit. And we had to make a decision as a family as to what we were going to do. And they told us, your mom's suffering. Do you want your mom to continue to suffer? Because she can suffer in hospice and pass away peacefully, or you can continue to drag out the process and she's in a bad way to the point where, and this is a disclaimer, so I'm gonna give you a heads up, but parts of her body were turning black. She was getting blood clots, and her face began swelling 3 times the amount, 4 times the amount of its original size. So the family made a decision at this point to let mom go. What we believe the nursing home did was not give sufficient care to my mom. And this nursing home facility is owned by a company. And recently in the news, we were told that this nursing home company received a letter of termination for one of its facilities for inadequate care. Not the one that my mom was staying at, but at least one of them. Of course, the news report is saying that they're appealing the decision because they're saddened, they're following through, and their self-inspections that they're providing to the state shows they're in compliance. It's a bunch of baloney, in my opinion. So, this palette right here, getting it, and having such a strong woman have the guts to talk about true crime and talk about the tough topics has given me the strength to sit here and talk about how my mom got screwed over by a nursing home, in my opinion. And had she gone to the hospital sooner, who knows? I may not be making this video because my mom may still be alive. It's one of those you will never know situations. So Bailey, I am a fan of yours, and so is my niece, who is turning 14. And I don't know if you're going to watch this video, see it, and hear about it, but you're an inspiration to the family and the future generation, where you represent a strong woman who's able to talk about tough topics and not so much as flinch. You talk about some really deep topics that are fascinating, that involve psychological topics that really deal with the disturbing side of humanity. And you challenge your viewers to really consider the multiple failures that could have prevented some of these actions that take place that occur. Like, let's say the video you did on Ed Kemper, for example. I watched that video and I remember hearing you talk about how many of the deaths could have been prevented, kind of like how my mom's death could have been prevented. So, to me, you inspire me to make change and good choices. So, I'm giving this palette an A+++. The colors are buttery and smooth. I don't find fallout anywhere. Look at how clean it still looks. I use different colors and I'm happy with my look for my eyes. So I'm ready to move on to my face. I'm doing was it no makeup day, so I used some primer as my face product, the luminizing primer, Pores No More, and it's actually tinted. And what I am doing is I'm going to be baking with this Translucent Power by Laura Mercier. So I'm going to put some powder in the lid here. And I'm just gonna go ahead and set my makeup, bake underneath the eyes. And I'll go in with my brush afterwards to sweep it off. so that I can brighten the eyes, because baking around my eyes, as you can see, this line right here, it's canceling out the those dark circles I've had since, I guess, since my mom passed away. I am going to use a couple of different products here. So I'm going to use this Butter Bronzer by Physicians Formula. This is, love this product. So I'm gonna take this bronze of my skin so I'm not pale. Gonna take it down the sides of my face to do a little contouring. And then I'm gonna chisel out my cheeks to give it somewhat of an angular look. And I'm gonna bring it up the forehead and color up the ears. Then I am going to take this wonderful highlighting brush, and it's by Farah, and I'm using an Ofra highlighter called Glazed Donut, and it's a collaboration between Ofra, and Nikki Tutorials. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that sides of my upper area. A little bit on the cupid's bow, a little bit on the tip of my nose. Then I'm gonna take the translucent powder again. And I learned this from Laura Lee, but she takes translucent powder and she adds in some of the powder and kind of chisels out the area as to where she added her highlighter, and puts the extra translucent powder to sit on her face and kind of, I think, bakes below the area of her bronzer, and it kind of makes it a more accented version of what's going on. So while I'm doing that, today is my 8-year anniversary with my husband, and it's the first anniversary that I've had without my mom and celebrating with her. So what I'm going to do, and I didn't realize my video is cutting out on me. Yay. So just to recap, after I had chiseled out and baked underneath where the bronzer was, I just went in and did a quick little sweeping And then I moisturize my lips with this Awake lip therapy mask. So what am I going to do now? Well, I'm taking this Huda Beauty lip contour in Trophy Wife, and I'm gonna line out my lips. And I personally like to color them in like a coloring book. And I really like that color. That's really pretty. And then I'm going to take this demi matte color. Actually, you know what? I am going to do the lighter version. I think that actually goes with, and it is called Catwalk Killer. And I like how that looks. So I don't know if anybody has seen some of my other videos, but I talk a little bit about wigs, and my mom was a cancer survivor. She survived stage 4 colon cancer and liver cancer. So she used wigs and began also using them as a form of expression because her hair was not the same after her chemo. Her hair was still always beautiful to me. So, but I'm gonna take this wig cap and put it on over my head. And I put my hair in a low bun. And I'm gonna just tuck in the sides. And I found this beautiful wig with this wonderful color in this rose gold purple color. And you place it on. And there was these clips in the back. And you actually clip them. So your wig stays in place. And then what you do is you take the wig So this is the finished look. I love to dye hair, and I love wigs, and I love makeup, and I'm gonna continue to do so. And this is using the Venice Fling palette with Estate, collaborating with Bailey Sarian, and it's a wonderful palette. I used this highlighter called Glazed Donut with Ofra and Nikki Tutorials. I used this butter bronzer, Physicians Formula, and it is in 6676. I don't know if there's different colors or not, but I used this. I used the Huda lip liner in Trophy Wife and the lip color in Catwalk Killa. Instead of using any form of foundation, I actually used a tinted primer. I know that may seem kind of weird, but it is a luminizing primer by Dr. Brandt called Pores No More. And I don't see any other color associated with it, but I set the primer with Laura Mercier's translucent powder right here, and then I used this lovely liquid eyeliner by Tarte called Sex Kitten to achieve this look. So I'm content with it. Thank you, Bailey, for being an inspiration to my niece and myself. And keep doing what you're doing. And I love the palette. And thank you for giving me a voice to continue to advocate on behalf of my mom and being a supporter of those who are victims of true crimes. Thank you.